Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda, and a warm welcome to the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Today is a Monday, the 14th day of April. The year is 2025. I welcome you to this edition of the Hotline Show. It happens every Monday. We start from 7 to 9 p.m. having a conversation with Uganda. And I tell you that we have these conversations not to find fault or ridicule anybody, but to actually find viable solutions that will make Uganda and the world a better place. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, and on behalf of the Alternative Digital TV, I'm your show host this evening. Before I welcome our guests for today, allow me to take you through some of the news stories that are making rounds in Uganda and the rest of the globe. As we are speaking right now, the under-17 Uganda football players or Uganda Cranes are actually in the World Cup as we speak. They have already qualified for the 2025 Under-17 World Cup. This comes at a time when Uganda has never been to a World Cup competition, especially in the sport of football. These young lads were able to win 2-1 against the Gambia, which sealed off their automatic qualification at that moment. That means come December this particular year, we shall be seeing them tussling out with other 47 countries that make up the 48 teams that will be playing in the Under-17 World Cup. Special congratulations to these young people. And I talk about this because Uganda is often talking about things that are not working, problems, but at least we have something to celebrate this particular evening. So congratulations to the Uganda Cranes Under-17 team and generally to all Ugandans that are watching. In the other news, the PFF has come out to claim that the Electoral Commission is actually not doing its job right. They say that for the last 8 months they've been trying to register the political party of the People's Front for Freedom, that is PFF, an entity that broke away, you can say a group that broke away from the FDC mainstream political party and decided to start themselves a political party. And that is PFF. They say that all of the requirements that are needed to be able to sign as a political party. They have already given them to the Electoral Commission, but up to today, they have not been confirmed. This was through their spokesperson and MP for Kira municipality, that is Ibrahim Semujunganda, this morning as he was addressing the media. And still in the news is the meeting between Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu and who you may call nemesis, even though he says that he's not a nemesis, Mpuga. Yesterday at the Palm Sunday celebrations that is in Rubaga Cathedral, they were able to sit together, and this brings about a debate of does politics actually bring about enmity? We are in a country where some political players do not agree when you meet with some of the people they disagree with. This also comes at a time when the chairperson, self-proclaimed chairperson Nyazi, the head of mobilization right there at the National Unity Platform, requested his son, who's also the guild president of Makerere University, to actually apologize for meeting President Museveni, something that Sentamu Churchill refused to do, saying that he was doing his job, his official job as a student leader, especially at a university like Makerere. And then lastly, I'll talk about the 100 million that the president has come out last week to also comment on, and that is the topic of discussion this evening. Does Uganda's parliament stay steadfast? Is it still having its power as a legislative body? But also, what is the autonomy right now when 100 MPs, when 100 million has been disbursed to some of the legislators? There are some legislators that came out with a document, and they are noting their names. They are saying that they have not received. If you haven't received the 100 million and you're a legislator, you can register on that particular list of members of parliament. We shall see how that plays out this particular weekend. You're still watching the Hotline Show, and this is the Alternative Digitalk TV. My guests for this evening, one is a journalist and the others are politicians from different political parties. I'll start with Irumba Andrew, who is the CEO, The Spy, and he is an investigative journalist, and this evening he has just joined us. Then on my immediate left is a gentleman who's not new to this show, a panelist right here from the Uganda People's Congress, a president of one faction there. That is Honorable Joseph Ochieno. And last, definitely not least, on the extreme left is Ambassador retired Major Counsel Pollar Awich, who is the Director, External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. You're most welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for hosting us.
My pleasure. It's a privilege to be with you, candid gentlemen. I'll start with you, sir, Mr. Irumba. It's your first time here. As you give us your opening remarks, I want you to also comment on the story of Uganda qualifying for the Under-17 World Cup, something that we have not seen in this country. And what's your comment on this particular issue?
First of all, I want to appreciate the interesting organization I've just seen right now. This is not my maiden show, although it is my maiden show in a new place.
Okay.
This is actually my second appearance.
Wow.
So I want to thank my brother, my comrade, Norman and his team.
Yes, sir.
Now, Uganda has never qualified for the World Cup Under-17. And now this one comes handy because I have seen for the entire of last week,
yes, sir,
a lot of Ugandans have been attacking the current leadership of FUFA, Engineer Magogo, Moses Magogo, the Honorable. But Uganda, we have a problem. You know, whatever you achieve today, who you are today, you started from somewhere yesterday. The people who come and find you in this seat, they think they can also sit right now here and host this show. When you ask them, please, I have taken 10 years practicing what I'm doing now. And they don't want to go there to those 10 years. No, they just want to achieve right now.
Yeah, we don't want the process.
That's now the challenge with this current generation. If you look at football, what the Under-17 have just got right now is the result of a process. That process, no Ugandan wants to know. They actually are not paying attention to that process. They're only paying attention to the result right now. That's when people now start thinking, oh, there have been some people working in the background. When you look at the young people, the youth on social media today, when they're discussing challenges, not problems, challenges, they discuss the challenges that have started yesterday in their entire life. Like there has never been challenges. No, they have just started appearing in their time. Yet actually, our forefathers dealt with much more bigger challenges, and they were able to endure and win them. So this under-17 win should tell those young people that to every success, you don't just look at the failure here, the success, or the achievement of the success. You look at the processes. Appreciate people who are doing some good job. I have seen people accusing some football leaders here, especially the current president, oh, you have hiked the price for the ticket. Let me ask you, my brother. 5 years ago, the ticket was 20,000. Today, they have said it is 40,000. When you calculate 5 years ago, what 20 was buying then, can what 20 was buying then even buy 40 today? Can you use 40,000 to buy what 20 would buy yesteryears? The answer is no. The answer is no. Are you getting my point?
Yes, I'm getting it.
It does not equate to that. So,
you want to give the success,
So-
the cranes to the person of Magogo, who has been, in fact, he's the longest serving FIFA president, 12 years, and counting. And you've said some accusations, some that have been raised on him is that he has even closed the avenue for other people to try to compete with him. Even as we're speaking, there is nobody standing against him in the FIFA presidency.
well, that we can study it. But for the last 12 years,
Yes.
we can see progress. We can see the football as a product of Uganda is on the rise. It's not on the decline. It's on the rise. Now, the competition within the leadership, that we can discuss.
All right.
Yeah, because you may accuse him for 12 years, but there is somebody who has been here for 40 years. So somebody is saying, no, he's the best. Now, who changes the rules of engagement at FIFA? Is it the FIFA president or it is the leadership?
FIFA technical.
Yes. So before you accuse him, let's find out who writes the constitution and who changes leadership. Let's start with that. Then we can now finally find out. But for me, the biggest issue here to pick is whether somebody has been in that leadership for 12 years or 2 years.
Yes, sir.
What's the trajectory?
Okay.
Are we going down or we are going high?
Looks
My
like we're
answer is we are going high.
Thank you.
And so we need to appreciate that.
Okay. That is Irumba Andrew, the CEO, the SPY, and it's an investigative body. Let me come to you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno. What's your comment on this win that we have registered as a country appearing in the World Cup for the very first time in our history in football?
Extraordinary achievement for the young Ugandans. Credit must go to young Ugandans on that pitch, on the platform. Granted, credit to the organization and leadership. But in context, I think I'll take issue straight away with my brother's submission. Simply because we've qualified today to 60 years of independence doesn't mean we should collapse. It's been too long coming, and merely the under-17s. And number two, I don't really want to go into the demonstration. I wanted us to focus on the exciting news about the celebration. Of course, we go to the politics of the administration and the corruption of the administration. It's completely unacceptable. Meaning that even if these young guys went ahead and won gold, if there is corruption here at FIFA, and if there is nepotism at FIFA, and if there is mistreatment and perhaps even corruption in terms of sectionism, how we pick players, something which has been the case in Uganda's different sporting activities. Maybe one of the things that has delayed Uganda from rising that's high so far in various sports and including football, where it is whom you know that may determine your position in the first team. So we must not dismiss that. I can tell you that why I want to say that these young people must be extremely high is because the circumstances under which they operate, the status of sports in this country is that very bad. I was in my primary school team in primary 6, and one of my biggest achievements is scoring against Nakongere Seminary. Nakongere Seminary, of course, was a secondary school, and the Coven school, secondary school and the seminary, very, very, very disciplined. Here, a local primary school, so I scored on the goal. The beat us 6. It was terrible. You know, but at the time, we had 3 football pitches, 2 former football pitches, Nakongere Primary School. Meaning that as early as the time I was in primary 6, I was able and capable of playing reasonable professional football.
Yes.
Today, part of the national debate is not only how schools are sold, like the Shimonis, but how school pitches are being sold by schools, head teachers, and perhaps by government, Ministry of Education, allowing public land to be sold off around the country. That has been big issues. Number 2.
Sorry, but that's an ambiguous statement. Do you want to really give us some of those examples that you know that have sold
I
public
can't
schools?
but I'll be surprised if you're a journalist and you don't know
Yes,
that part of the national. I talk about Shimoni as a school. Also.
Yeah, but that was, I'm saying,
no,
a school that has sold a playground or a football pitch.
There are many. And as a journalist, I can't pick one off my head, but I can tell you it's a big national thing. And I'm raising it deliberately to back up this because we want to look at this thing from a constructive point of view. I'm trying to say, if these things were not happening, so and you know, I was going to link that before you came in. That look, many private schools which are now doing very well. You know that these private schools mushroom, and they're rounded in stairs, and they hardly play spaces. One play basically for physical exercise for the young people,
Yes,
and
sir.
they two for sporting and advancement of sports. So meaning therefore that Ugandan educational systems, when therefore it comes to the places for churning youth for really the sporting activities, is actually quite limited. And that's what I'm trying to say, that this success must be seen against that background. That they've succeeded so much thus far, you know, against those kind of difficulties. I'm saying if we're investing generally in both private and public schools, that perhaps the future European government would say that if you're a private school and you're asking for license, you must show that your school has good capacity and spaces, including sporting activities. So that really is the context. And so
I would have a question, sir.
it is something.
We have been to AFCON 2017. I'm talking about the recent history, really, in football. We've been in AFCON 2017, 2019, then we missed 2021, then we've bounced back this particular year, that is 2025, and we're going to host AFCON 2027. One would say these are wins that have been registered under this FUFA administration or leadership. To what extent do you credit them for those successes?
Or does he fault them?
Or fault them?
I don't think what's on the sport here is FUFA.
Because they had already
I don't
faulted
think-
them, so that's what I was
I
asking.
don't think what's on the sport here is
Mainly
FUFA.
why.
And I don't want it to be the debate about FUFA. I'm stating the facts in response to what's actually real. I basically want to focus on the successes. If you talk about from FUFA's perspective, maybe it's a manifestation of what African football is. That Uganda can be amongst the countries to host, because for me, who looks around global issues, if you look at Uganda, how many football stadiums do we have? How many?
Usually you would say like
Away from
one.
Nambole, we have
One,
Nambole.
yeah.
You know,
So
the other day I was with Mr. Museveni and Ruto in Siaya, you know, opening up a studio, a stadium, in a place which was a trading center smaller than Nakongere had before 30 years ago. And these guys have got stadium. So now in terms of facilities, we can't pretend because FIFA is coming here, so we are great. Just like because we hosted Commonwealth, it meant we are great. No, we are not. And Ugandans, particularly Ugandan youth who must be celebrating today, we ought to be doing better. Your government ought to be doing better. Authorities have to be doing better. Sporting authorities have to be doing better. That's basically my point. But we hail these guys. As far as where we're starting from, we are starting from very, very far off. I don't want us to use this as mini yardsticks to console ourselves.
Okay, Mr. Museveni has come out to apologize, by the way, and said we did not invest in sports earlier on because there were many problems by then that we had to cater for. And now we are investing in sports. That's why you're seeing there are stadiums being built in Hoima Stadium in northern Uganda. They are refurbishing Mambole again with another 97 billion. Can't you just forgive him and see his eye?
I don't know how you can forgive a 40-year-old failure. So after 40 years, if we were waiting for that from 1962 to 71, we would not have gone anywhere. We would not have gone to school. We would not have gone to school. We would not have gone to Dar es Salaam University. We would have been waiting for us to sort out post-colonial problems. No, these are problems. Granted, you should say that. The bangles of Akibwa Stadium, the bangles include of this Hoima Stadium, which granted legislators had to get involved in it. I think you're right that this kind of conversations brings us back to the debates about why it's important for us to take national priorities, to prioritize key sectors of our economy. And usually these things, when we are critiquing Comrade Awich, we are not criticizing, we're not playing party political. We're giving objective political views about the state of our country because we love this country more than we love the political position that we do hold. And as far as sport is concerned, it has actually been very pathetic under NRA. You can't sell public schools, you can't allow schools to sell recreational centers, and you can't privatize education and confine schools now to become into people's garages simply because they get grade ones. And apparently there's a debate taking place in Lira as it happens. That I saw some zealous guy from Dokolo challenging some UPC guys about a political thing taking place in Lira, that I think only 59 grade ones, some parliamentary candidate was giving mattresses, which I found patronizing, but it's fine enough, that's what they've been reduced to do, to people who got Division 1. And this guy was asking, are you saying the whole of Lira City, only 59 as a district, 59 pupils got Division 1? Now, you know that that's a possible reality because that's possibly more than what they got in Tororo. Okay. But you know that that's less than half what an average private school, privileged private school in Kampala gets. Those are the conversations and considerations we want to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
28 minutes past the top of the hour. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Kamoga Franklin Gooding, you are watching from San Francisco. Thank you so much for tuning in at this time. Then Alibawa Ali, you're also watching. I'll be reading some of your messages subsequently as we continue with the program. Feel free to just comment, like, share any message. I'll be reading our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda. That is on Facebook and YouTube, but also at Digitalk TV, both on Facebook and YouTube. Let me come to you, Honorable Pollar Awich. Your comment on Uganda's qualification for AFCON World Cup under 17.
My comment is that it's fantastic. It's good news.
Yeah, it is.
But let me take this opportunity to thank you, Karanga. Today you are extremely smart.
Thank you, sir.
Extremely smart today. I don't know.
So are you saying I'm the subject?
No, as our host.
Because I'm talking to him in relation to everyday shows in comparison. So you're very smart. I don't know whether you have a diplomatic dinner from here or otherwise. But also I like to show happiness to my comrade Irumba of Pan-African. I'm a member of Pan-African, and I strongly believe in the ideology. I understand it. Actually, I have every Friday shows on UBC and Pan-African, and I'm told people like it. So thank you, and good to meet you here. Of course, a similar welcome to my usual colleague, the congressman.
Thank you.
Now, about under 17, I already said it's fantastic, it's good. You see, if you want an ordinary Uganda to understand what has happened, is that Uganda will be playing with the likes of Brazil, with the like of Germany, with the like of France, with the like of,
Yes.
It would be good for Uganda to be kicking and falling down together with these giants. This is what really a Ugandan should understand, and that we really market ourselves there. Let me talk something briefly about the marketing Uganda to the world. Did you know that when in UN there are several elections which take place, including election of, say, Justice 17 to ICJ, or you electing Uganda to Security Council? Do you know that countries which have sporting teams get much easier elections?
That is true.
Even if it is electing people on nuclear energy. You can't imagine that it's football which would market a Brazilian nuclear scientist than even his knowledge of nuclear science. I have faced an election in the world stage twice and won it, but sometimes I would get a little bit of embarrassment that we didn't have what to market us. You really have to market yourself. The embarrassment I got was that you find a small diplomat from Lithuania, countries which maybe some Ugandans don't know, and they also don't know Uganda. Do you know the only thing they know is President Amin is still alive?
Wow.
They ask you whether Amin is alive, and that's the only thing you know. So how much happier would we be if we were being marketed through a global scene like the under-17 or even the big team? So this is the importance of qualifying. That you're making Uganda known, not only because of Amin, because the way Amin was dramatized, he could kill his son, eat the liver, you know, a president who was pictured in a films like a president who would kill a son, remove the liver and eat it, and, you know, such things.
Yeah.
So a young diplomat from Lithuania, the only thing he knows about Uganda is Amin, and on a negative tone,
Yes.
not on a positive tone. So how beautiful is it to have our sons play this? So it is
Just
good.
to add on that, the World Cup last in 2022 was seen by 4 billion people. That World Cup that happened in Qatar, and the world has 9 billion. So that means almost half of the population on the earth is watching that competition.
And they're seeing Uganda. Even if you played first round only, you're already there.
But have you loved that team? Can you take that win for yourself as the NRM? When the football team is
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I am coming to that.
Just a point of information that the national team of Uganda gets the biggest amount in all sports teams, but it gets only 10 billion. And that's the biggest amount. Have we loved that sport?
We have loved, but it depends on the resource envelopes. Now, what I want to say here is that
The resource envelope, you've just spent 52 billion.
yes, ideally, football is supposed to be very independent, and that is how FIFA has arranged it. To the extent that is FIFA, the international one. To the extent that if you put in politics in it, you can be penalized, even disqualified. And to a big extent, FIFA has managed to make football independent. But as we shall discuss even in the autonomy of parliament, some of this independence are theoretical. In that you are supposed to exercise independence or autonomy, but here we are crying for funding it. So how independent and non-political is it if you are crying for funding from the government? Now, to talk about that, therefore, it means government has an overarching responsibility for anything that takes place in the sovereignty of Uganda. Even to grant that independence, it is government concern, because government could mess with it, and therefore FIFA would penalize it, or you'd mess up the whole thing. So the overarching person in this sovereignty is the government. Whether you allege sovereignty, independence and autonomy from FIFA, that don't bring your politics, leave us alone, leave football alone, all that, still you can see even at the blame end, government is blame. So what a contradiction. You are telling me to leave it independent, then you are blaming him for funding it. But all in all, whatever happens in the jurisdiction of the country, the government and the country is involved. Therefore, I thank data for government for its struggle to ensure even that independence is respected. That independence is respected. And all other growth. For example, government is supposed to plan, like he said, a school in response to Article 31 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Every planning should take right to play. Even if you are to plan, say, Arkwright Estate, did you know that under the law, Arkwright is supposed to build houses but give space for playing for children? And it is also a checklist in the schools checklist in Ministry of Education that when you're establishing a school, where is the playground? It may have loopholes here and there, but still it is on the checklist and ministry checks it. And once you do that, therefore, you are putting, first of all, school authorities on alert, and secondly, even if you enforce it to 70%, that is itself an achievement. And of course, the other normal growth. And the policy there too. For example, over the weekend, we were in Toro about the entire league. About entire league, we're in Fort Fortin. And that itself, even if you're not playing it professionally, it plants in the culture of football. And that is government to achieve it. How about a liberal policy of media? You don't get media, for example, in North Korea or any other country where you have that freedom of media. The media government policy to have football aired every weekend, children, or every day they are watching Arsenal, Man U, what, and all this. This also develops the football. Even it is a subconscious training. People are watching professional football every day. Professional football is brought to them. This used to be a prison of people in German. It would only be watched in German. And therefore, by government having a liberal policy to media itself, by saying you hear football, that all channels can get La Liga, you can get Italian sports, you can get English, you can get the French, all our youth are training and learning on professionalism and skill and picking interest every day. So this all goes to government.
Okay.
The collective effort, the collective approach results into this. It's a multiplicity. Okay. And sometimes the government role is not seen. But I can assure you, nothing happens within the jurisdiction of the country without government. If you want to know when there's a failure, blame goes to government.
Yes.
When there's success, it goes to a unknown person. I've given an example here and again that if there's a fighting in a Moro between in a place called a Pa, between the Mahdi and the Acholi, government has failed. But when Banyoro and Batoro are living peacefully, government has not succeeded. So government only fails where there's fighting.
Did you have to bring Batoro because I'm here?
Yes. So
it's okay.
All this,
yes, sir.
Remember, finally, that even after it has taken all this long that the congressman is saying after 40 years, there are some big European countries that have never qualified for this. Austria, you could find it.
Austria has been there. It has been in the World Cup.
I'm giving you an example, okay. For example. So it's not easy goal that you qualify.
Okay. I'm going to come to you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno, to just comment on what he's saying. But there is a survey I've made personally from the ghettos where we really come from. It's either this young man is a bowler, a boxer, or a musician. But these young people, most of them are unemployed. How do we empower them, as you also comment on that? How do we empower them in these genres that we feel it's normal, it's organic for them?
That is a fantastic point. In fact, it's going to link up with a bring back to the question of football pitches.
Yeah,
but
in just a minute, because Andrew also has to come in. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No, I'm okay.
And for that is, New Vision writes about encroachments of football pitches in Kampala and says Lugogo, which was basically the center which used to have up to 10 free football pitches, it has now nearly, where all nearly famous footballers of the 70s, 80s and 90s developed their talents. You talk about Kampala Central Division, which failed, all the pitches have been sold.
Okay.
You talk about many, where players like the Tamales came from. You can go on and on and on. And this is something that has happened. So these are very real things. And we're saying that, we use this positive news to re-emphasize and for us to review, to do better. But most importantly, Comrade Rich is right about the contemporaneity of football. That many of these young guys, get these inspirations broadly thanks actually to social media, although Comrade Rich wants to put it on government. But fair enough. Because of this madness these days about Arsenal, Man U and things like that, young people genuinely, and the proliferation of the media, 24-hour media, including social media, many people watch these things on social media, People are getting motivated, people are getting pushed. But the ghetto element is linked to this. traditionally, historical times, away from football pitches in schools, the ones in the Lugogos and in rural Tororos and these public spaces is where these young, would say, ghetto unemployed guys would go. And they used to be football teams. And actually some of the communities these days are trying to revive these things among themselves. But these are supposed to be under Ministry of Culture and Community Development. And the UPC government sports was under Culture and Community Development. And there was investments for it. And that is ideally what it should be.
Because one would say, if Uganda had a Lionel Messi here, would we even produce a Lionel Messi?
No, that's what I'm trying. That's one of the things I was trying to say much earlier, that we needed to be careful, look at the leadership of these things and how these things work. The processes really is to create an enabling environment in which rural children in Tundum who don't go to school have got access to places, and that educational institutions use these things and they play football competitions in primary schools, secondary schools, and across regions. And what took me to Gulu for the first time in 1984, where I passed and we narrowly escaped NRM bombs in Bomba, I think I've told the program.
Yes.
Where the vehicle after our bus was bombed. We're going to go for the second post all secondary schools athletics championship, for which I was vice captain, and and it was actually Kampala all schools, and it was bringing together not only institutions but actually bringing us a national culture and the competition. And it is something which is extremely important, should be encouraged. But government needs to be able to invest in that.
Okay.
Ghetto. Can I say something about ghetto?
Yes, sir.
Now, I think your question was, why is it that some sports young guys come from the ghetto, and would Uganda manage that? You see, the ghetto phenomenon is like you find in a country like France. You have many black players. It's simply because, first of all, football is a physical game. It needs strength and ability. That is why you find people like Zidane was disqualified from the Algerian team because he was underweight. Because the coach saw that physicality was good. Zidane was disqualified. He was supposed to play for Algeria. So when he was disqualified, somehow he went in France, and the French coach said, well, small as you are, let's try. And the man became a...
Zinedine Zidane.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that shows you the physicality.
The man who headed somebody
yes.
out
so
of World Cup.
The game, football itself is physical. Two, it is marital. You can see the merits openly. So you can't favor anybody.
I'm saying, but with knowing all that, have we empowered those ghetto youth to be able to play at the biggest stage?
Even in music. To clear to our viewers. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to our viewers. You may know, but
he's asking about the viewers.
So I am saying, when you ask us a question, you ask us a question to explain to viewers. I don't think most of this question is for your consumption. Let me be clear on that. When you ask me or you ask the congressman a question, you're asking is to direct us to explain to our viewers. So I am saying to the viewers that the ghetto, the football is a physical game. Two, is a game that one has merit. So you won't put your brother or your cousin if it doesn't qualify. If you do it, you spoil it. So as to how we now, and that is why in many places, even in America or in France, even if you didn't want that person, it will be in the team. Whether you hate it for race, for anything, for whatever, it will come because it's a game of merit. Now, that is first step. Second step is as to how, as a country, we can pick from our ghetto, is a system that I think should have been now embedded in the Magogo policy. You see, there are so many layers of football now. There are very many layers. There is an action plan for the development of football in Uganda, which has been developed and presumably should be financed. Now, part of that action plan to develop football, it includes how the identification of the youth in the ghetto.
We are praying that they stop being from papers and actually we see them practically in the ghetto. But I have a couple of people watching. Namirembe Angela, thank you so much for watching. Tale Lud Mwesige Joram from Kienjojo. Honorable Francis Zakebtebi, Stella Nyanzi, Henry Mangeni, Mukasa, Godfrey Mwebaza, Michael Kavazguruka. Thank you so much for watching. Naluima Nina, you said, let Comrade Awich respond on the pork barrel politics in Parliament. This is MPs have taken 100M and the Commission 500M. He will be talking about that later. But let's continue on to the next story. We have these days a phenomenon of politicians not agreeing with each other. Yesterday, at the Palm Sunday, we saw Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu sitting with Mpuga, someone that he's agreed with over the 500 million, as Naluima was here noting down. My question also comes from a point where in the recent past we have seen the head of mobilization at the National Unity Platform ordering or requesting his son to actually apologize or even resign for meeting the president. And the son came out to say, that is Sentamu Churchill, who is the guild president of Makerere, said he cannot refuse to meet the head of state. He is a student and a student leader and is entitled to actually be there. Now my question is, how does this work out? A politics of not even meeting each other. We've heard of claims where when an opposition leader meets President Museveni, they are dubbed corrupt, they are dubbed thieves. How do we remove, or is this actually a culture that is bad? I'll start with you, Honorable Awich, from the extreme end. And this I'm starting with you because President Museveni, meeting President Museveni, the opposition feels that you have done something very wrong.
You have betrayed the country.
Exactly, that's the word to use, sir. What do you think about this phenomenon, this culture?
I see it strange, even at our interpersonal level. I've tended to see that sentiment, which I think is wrong. For example, me, as Major Wich and a director at the NRM Secretariat, I have no fear meeting people of different views. And that's why Congressman is my best friend. I meet people from opposition, even if they came to office. Somehow I think the idea that you shouldn't meet is occasioned by a factor like a sense of inferiority complex or insecurity. For example, if somebody is a newcomer in NRM, he feels if he meets opposition, they will suspect him. But some of us who have been there long enough, and we have seen opposition come and join, and also the ideological backing of the movement, I don't fear to meet opposition. So that is at my level. But somebody who possibly joined yesterday and is really serious, he thinks that when he meets opposition, what are you doing? Why are you talking to him? I don't think we shouldn't meet. Secondly, as a student, and you're elected, let's say, on any party, Basari or a party is called what? JEMA, Justice Forum. If a student was elected on JEMA and is a guild president of Makerere, when he meets the president, are they going to discuss NRM or they are going to discuss student affairs? So equally, the son of Nyanza, I don't think President Museveni would go to discuss NUP or what. By the way, I can tell this with certainty, that in the fora that I've met President Museveni, he is not comfortable with partisan student politics. He has always said that if we take this politics to university, are we not going to divide our students? That is his view. And I believe he's watching me.
But he has generally never liked multi-party politics,
no,
you can say.
He likes multi-party politics, and that is why we form our party. For example, he's not excited. He's not excited about taking NRM to universities, this and that.
About that.
But then other party members argue that, Your Excellency, if you don't go, other parties are going. So what are you going to do? But for him, he thinks so. So I don't think Museveni would even bother. He would know as a fact that
this girl president is Noop, is the son of so and so. That is all. So a student leader meeting a president, whether he was elected on UPC or JEMA, to me is not an issue. But you're talking at a bigger aspect, that should people of different views not meet? Why? We should meet. If anything, how then are we going to crystallize and get a solution of the country? Remember, getting a solution of the country is this intercourse. You say your view, I say my view. You say your view, I say my view. Eventually, it crystallizes to something. Even to the viewers who is watching is benefiting, that is seeing both views. So we should actually encourage a lot of meeting between people or among people with different views.
Your party and your party leader is notorious for compromising the opposition leaders he meets. The Speaker of Parliament we have today was in the opposition. Even the Deputy Speaker of Parliament was in the opposition. Every time your leader has met these people, they have been compromised. They have not come back the same. What do you think? And some people even say he outrightly buys them. He buys them out.
No, one thing you should know with party politics is that it's a question of numbers. So we would want as many people to come to us, and we shall use any opportunity we can. But that is not in the student politics. Student politics discusses student issues. But for us, there's nothing wrong with us meeting other leaders from other parties and persuade them.
Compromising.
We persuade them.
With
And it is up to them also to persuade us. It is up to them. If the congressman wants to persuade me, he's free to persuade me.
So these people like you because of your ideas?
Not only ideas. I've repeated again and again that our cornerstone that makes people love us, even the Wananchi, is the well-being of the people. Because when you say ideas, it becomes spiritual, and yet we're talking of materiality. For a man to live, he must eat, drink, sleep, you know, the basic economic needs of a man. And that is what NRM ideology is geared to, addressing those needs. And that's why we go for PDM and all this and all that, because we address. So if you regard it to ideas, it lacks the materiality. So they love us not because of only ideas, but how our ideas is grounded on the material well-being of a person. And this is not necessarily to buy, but the mass approach to the ordinary people. The mass approach, like I always say, to the ordinary people. Therefore, I still insist that for NRM members who feel insecure sharing views with opposition, they should drop it. The ideology of NRM is free thinking, free thought. Meet your colleagues, convince them to join NRM. NRM is about regardless of the ranking of the person you are calling. I can convince the congressman to join. Okay. He can also try to convince me.
Impossible.
You recently convinced more than 10 MPs than they joined you. Let me come to
Yes,
Mr.
I've just
Irumba.
succeeded in Achole by 11.
Okay.
I've got 11 from
I've
Achole.
even lessened your number. Mr. Irumba, what do you think about this issue of not talking to your political opponent?
I think, first of all, our politics in Uganda and Africa, not politics.
Yes, sir.
Politics. You know, we have never practiced politics in Uganda and most parts of Africa. Just a few countries in Africa that practice real politics, because politics must be the science of managing people and their needs. You take care of the people. In Africa, it is the people that take care of the leader. So that's not politics. But the bigger context for me is we must metamorphose, we must grow. Everybody here in the world admires how America treats their former presidents. You saw recently, even in Trump, is so much agitated with Biden and Obama. You saw how, I think you saw Trump's reaction towards Biden and Obama. He's the kind of guy who can fit in Ugandan politics. But in America, he's compelled to treat former presidents in a certain way. That's why you saw all of them at his inauguration. You get it? We have also somehow appreciated the way the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, has been working together with William Ruto until recently, when William Ruto started thinking this guy is cutting my feet in the back, and so on. Now, when you start inculcating the politics of hatred right from the student leadership,
Who is inculcating?
the opposition, the opposition.
Yeah, they are the ones raising.
Yeah, this is my point,
Yeah,
my
they are the
comrade.
ones
You will say
Why
yours.
do you say the opposition?
I have seen how opposition behaves. They think that to do good politics, I must show everybody that I hate the person of Museveni. And I not only hate the person of Museveni, I hate his wife, I hate his children, I hate his brother, I hate his cows in Rwakitura. These people, they even show that they hate his cows. You get it? The other day, actually, and they said, they show this in the public. The other day, I got information that the family of Sentamu sold over 200 acres of land to Museveni.
Family of which Sentamu?
Sentamu, the father of Kyagulanyi Bobi Wine. In
Gomba.
Yes. Go and find, I have evidence. They sold over 200 acres of land to Museveni. Museveni, the person, not to his brother, not to the family, no, Museveni, the person. He paid them money.
You're breaking news.
But, I'm telling you, but when you meet them on the street, they show you that they don't even want to meet the man called Museveni. At night, they go and negotiate how to sell and receive their money.
Let's take a break right there.
Why when the Mutori is talking is when you take a break?
Because it's very interesting. Let's take a break right now. When we come back, we start on that issue and more. This is the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues. Real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that break. You're still watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. And Mr. Irumba, as we were heading through the show, you were still exhausting your point.
Yeah, so
Why do you say it's the opposition
I came
that
from
is
the
propagating
background.
this?
I came from the background. My argument was from the background that we must be cognizant of the fact that there is only one humanity. You may belong to UPC, I belong to NRM, the other one belongs to JMAT. We have disagreements in our thinking, but when it comes to inculcating, training the young generation to begin hating now, basically started disagreeing with Museveni when he was now mature enough. He had even, I think, amassed enough wealth. He had even married his wife, they had had children, they had bought some land, they had built. Same applies to Bobi when he started officially to disagree openly with this regime after he had gotten something in Magere. You get it?
Yes.
You can talk about all of those people today in opposition. It is so wrong. At the very beginning of the light of Churchill, that you, his father, you come and want to put the light out. By saying, please, never sit with that dictator, never even listen to him.
Mr. Irumba, he's saying it from a perspective of actually, I love you, I don't want you to meet him to compromise you. According to his track record, he has compromised a couple of them.
Who told the Nyanzi that Museveni was a bad man? It is himself. He found it himself. He was chairman NRM in Kamucha. After working a long time with him, he made his decision as an old man this time.
Okay.
Nobody told Nyanzi when he was younger that don't deal with Museveni. Actually, he wouldn't even have allowed you.
Okay.
Now, same applies.
As you conclude.
Same applies to Churchill. Churchill, being the guild president of Makerere, the biggest university in Uganda and in Africa probably, he has the brain to differentiate between a good leader and a bad leader.
Thank you.
Give him the chance. My brother,
Yes, sir.
Makerere University is a combination of many political affiliations, religious affiliations, socio-economic affiliations. When you are the guild president of Makerere, you are not the guild president of NUP, you are not the guild president of UPC, you are the guild president of all students at Makerere University.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ochieno, on that particular issue, what do you think?
You know, it's really, really sad, but I've also had a bit of mixes here, and I need to just clear the air. One is that this acidic politics that is being experienced in Uganda today is not the politics I know. It's not the politics I joined. It's not the politics I preach. It's not the politics I practice. And Edgar, you plus many young people who've met me and who and a right to know that's not the politics I represent. In any case, it's politics I'm attempting that we should dump them in the dustbins of wherever they may have come from. Number two, that actually that is not Ugandan politics. And for Mr. Irumba, this country was once upon civil. Pre-independence, this country was very civil. Our leaders across the political divide and the different nationalities and identities with very major conflicting interests were able to have conversations and negotiations that leading to independence and constitutions, and up to and including resolving major issues, including the question of the lost counties and others, notwithstanding that conflict still arose. We went to independence and were even able to, as my party, Uganda Post-Congress, was able to offer a government of national unity, recognizing that there were three political parties at play and that we needed to come together and form a consensus government for DP, KY and UPC together, and share in terms of thinking, share in terms of the opportunities that avail, but make sure that we build for the country.
Okay.
That must be put in the record in context. DP, for some very strange and unfortunate reasons, refused. DP did not refuse because they didn't want UPC. Ironically, DP refused because they couldn't stand KY. That again, for the record, must be put on there. We ended up with a coalition government with KY, not because we couldn't form a working government. We would have had a minority government, small working majority government with a struggle, but we could form a government. We did so in national interest. KY is a chauvinist political organization, in fact quite radically to the right wing of polity. UPC, progressive left political party and organization, we worked together and formed a government. And had it not been for some talking for a while now, maybe had both parties looked at Uganda more, that coalition would have stayed, but even then it delivered for us quite firmly.
So how did we get here because of time?
I'm giving you context.
Yeah, because of time, sir.
It's very important for the context of the topic,
yes,
because I would rather do that and then not go very far with this conversation. It's an important projection that the young people, including yourselves, don't know that these things ever happened. All the 70s and others tell about the 60s is war and people breaking other people's noses. So fast forward, what it took government. Once UPC won the elections, the language Milton Obote used for Semogere was my brother Semogere, my brother Paul. These guys worked together. These guys, although DP was not cooperating, the hand of friendship and leadership was offered by the president, continuously in parliament and everything, including inviting him for emergency meetings over Lowero. So point is a matter of national leadership. This toxicity was the creation of Mr. Museveni. Okay. When he came into power, 1986, not only was it about calling others names, including calling former leaders swines. So he bred in a culture of hate. And created a situation in politics of them that people who don't agree with them. That, including today, Mr. Museveni, if you're not in the NRM, you can even see in this statement the other day, there's 100 million stolen money. Calls them people who don't agree with us. So it's really at the heart of national leadership.
He's working with people that you may claim he does not agree. He's working with Akena. He's working with Democratic Party.
I'll also quarrel with him.
He has worked with various. His ministers is one of us, son of a former president. To what extent do you want him to work with his rivals?
If you don't allow me to make the argument for a very important debate, then it will lose meaning. Of course, I'm coming to those things. In UPC, we make sure that we do. So look, Mr. Museveni brought in this toxicity of them versus us. And I think it's a climate that has now been created where the opposition is looked at as the other. And it's not surprising that some people in NRM, as Comrade Rich would say, would even fear because those opposition guys, in fact, even earlier today I was with some young people who, when you talk about demonstration, they think if you demonstrating or strike, they call it an extremist. But they says, no, it's a globally accepted way of withholding your labor and having negotiations. Does not mean that when you go pick up placards, go in front of parliament, you're killed or whatever kind of stuff. So it's a political climate which is there. But as I said, it's a political climate which we must end. Now fast forward, what happens? When Mr. Museveni started, and I think you're pushing that very same question like a devil's advocate to Comrade Irumba, was the meetings that the public get concerned about are meetings where people dress themselves like nuns and go to Rachitura at night. Who meet and then they begin talking in tongues, and they've taken 500 million Uganda shillings from these guys. The meetings that lead people to the likes of Anita Monks and others. So Mr. Museveni has got a terrible record. So since you talk about James Ochieno, absolutely. The meeting with Jim Ochieno was not a cordial meeting that go ahead and have a conversation and then see how we can build the country together. But it was a deal between parties and groups of individuals, over the head of UPC and the head of the interests of this country. And it's a meeting that I was fundamentally opposed to. I can tell you that...
as you conclude, sir.
I can tell you that, that said, I find it extremely shocking that a guild president of Makerere University should not shake hands with the head of state. I genuinely find it extraordinary, and that is a sign of political maturity in this country, and the leadership of the opposition political parties, including NUP, which at the moment it really has the burden of responsibility to lead in an exemplary example. I find it quite shocking.
Okay.
I personally, I'll continue a bit. I personally shook hands with George Kiria, very, very unpopular Vice Chancellor of Makerere University. I was made as the student leader to welcome him as the new Vice Chancellor of Makerere University when he replaced Professor Savio Wandira. And there was nothing positive about it. Students were really, really struggling, complaining that why had Museveni replaced Wandira with George Kiria, but I did.
Okay.
So how that does not happen, I don't know. And then finally, the Mpuga thing. Maybe it's also a bit of a media hype. This is in Rubaga Cathedral. It's the Kabaka thing. Mpuga is the leader. Chagulanyi is the leader. I saw there some other individuals. I could have been there myself. And if I was there, almost certainly I would have sat with them on the same row or the next row.
Okay.
Why wouldn't they talk? In any case, to be fair to people who need to know, it does not necessarily mean that these guys have changed their views. But it's public decorum, it's order, organization.
Thank you.
That's what
Chagulanyi, after that, someone said that they don't disagree as people, but they're disagreeing on issues that are standing. Now let's move on to the next discussion, which is the 100 million that has been dished out.
Can you just give me 1 30 seconds?
Please, 30 seconds, yes,
I think I'll please on this one. When Besigye, and this for the record, when the Besigyes walked out in Bali on an event with organized, I think, by the Anglican Church, and Museveni came in and the Besigyes walked out. Maybe you're not a practicing candidate. I don't know whether you remember. It's about 10 years ago.
I remember.
I was somewhere in London, and I think I even wrote about it.
I remember.
I was extremely disappointed with the case of Besigye, and I think I wrote about it. Because he was the leader of the official position. He was being hosted by the church. It was a public event. He was really the voice of the mainstream alternative government. I personally believe that he did not need to lead the walking out.
Okay.
I personally believe that people like Nandala, Mafabi, and other lieutenants, you can even art design these things. I'm just teaching young guys leadership. You can art design things. You don't have to do. You must be the exemplary leader.
Thank you. Biancy Daniel Bright, people must communicate, never block all the channels of communication, even during war. Brooke Williams Chikomeko, thank you so much for watching. I'll be reading more of your messages. Now, let's go to the question that was asked by Naluiman Nina. She called you comrade, by the way, Irumba Awich. And what do you think about the 100 million that was given to members of parliament? And since you are close to power, one would say, why were they given the 100 million?
The person who called me comrade is a lady, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And for her to call me a comrade is hand. I have handed. Why? Because she sees my civility. Okay? The control of excitement, being a person from the ruling party, I control the excitement, I'm civil. So that title doesn't come for nothing. I earned it because of my civil, cool nature.
Yes, sir.
Two, you are saying...
Because a comrade is someone who you have the same mutual
So,
But let's continue. Let's continue.
You are saying that you're asking my opinion because I'm close to power. I'm in power, not just close.
These guys can boast, man.
I'm in power, not just close.
He's not boasting. He's the director, external affairs.
You see, Karanga,
Yes, sir.
I'm in power in that the people vote for the party. It is the party which has the manifesto. We take it to the people. UPC take it, DP, every party takes. Now it is on the strength of our party manifesto that they vote for us.
Okay.
Then when they vote a party forms government. You're very aware that if Nup had won, Otafire would not be a minister of internal affairs. Otafire is there because we won. Now this generates from Article 1 of the Constitution. It says power belongs to the people.
Okay.
Now, let me explain. I will answer your question. Power belongs to the people. Now, the people give that power to the party because of the manifesto. So the party and the government is the party is the principal, government is the agent. Now, people who work in government are given contract, like KCCA, 5 years or 10 years or so. Some people are given contract in government that your contract is up to 60 years retirement. Now, these people who are given a contract up to 60 years, they actually forget that they are not agent of the ruling party. The agent of the ruling party, because the ruling party got it from the people, Article 1.
Yes, sir.
So, you don't tell a director in the party that is near, is actually in power.
Okay, you are in power. Why are you giving MPs 100 million?
Now, the question of 100 million,
Why?
why is already, it's the job is actually easy for me because the president wrote a letter and he circulated it in, as usual, it starts by greeting the grandchildren in Luganda, what you call in Luganda, grandchildren. Now, in parliament, there are two sources of funding, which was clearly shown when the commissioners got money and they went to court. Somebody went to court. Court said Parliament was right to appropriate that money. It was appropriated well. Only that Parliament faulted the accounting officer, that the procedure of the accounting officer was wrong. So therefore, money that goes to Parliament can be either an appropriation by Parliament itself, or in this case, it's a giving from the president. The question now should be, what source of funding did the president have? Did he sell his cows, or did he get from a vote? The president explained that he got it from a vote called classified. And he says the role of classified is to buy equipments that may not be disclosed publicly, but also that money is used to bring peace in whatever way. So he said it gave to the MPs for peaceful purposes. Because as a head of state...
What do you mean peaceful purposes? Define peaceful purposes, please.
You see, these are legislators who come to the National Assembly because not all the 46 or 45 million people cannot be in that assembly. That is why it is called a National Assembly. So we only go to that assembly through our representatives. Over a long period of time, Museveni has been discouraging these MPs that please don't incur personal cost. For example, as MPs, you don't build roads, you don't do this. It will break you down. Museveni has been saying government has been putting money in your constituency through government channels. You monitor that and ensure that they work well. When they work well, it is good for you. But some MPs go out of their way, give money. In the process, they become broke. Now, when they are broke as leaders, these are the people in the National Assembly, it will result into lack of peace. The challenges that they have, running away from the house because they got
You use the word broke. They are broke. These servants or these government employees are some of the highest, the most paid employees. They receive more than $10,000 every month. That's an approximate of around 37 million. How broke can they be?
I have just explained how broke, because the president has repeatedly warned them not to do things that is way outside their mandate. So that is what has made them broke.
But he is using my money and Irumba's money and your money to solve the problems of MPs, is that something that should be done by a leader?
Now, when these MPs get involved in activities way outside their mandate, buying ambulance, you have seen nearly every MP buying ambulance, maintaining those ambulances, buying, some of them say put in fuel, but maintaining the tires, the services, the breakdown, do all this, paying school fees for others, going for battle. Now, this is what makes them broke. This is what eats the $10,000. Now, over time.
But is that their role?
No, but my question, how
That's
is it
what I'm
my
saying,
problem?
the president has been
how is
discouraging
it my problem, Mr. Awich? How is it my problem that they are taking out loans, that they are buying these things? How is it my problem that you have to give over 50 billion to them?
It's not your problem. It's the president's problem.
No.
It is not your problem.
Thank you, thank you.
See,
Thank you. Because that's my money.
Because the money has already been appropriated by Parliament for the use of the president.
Let me
So,
just stop here.
It can't be your problem. It is now the president who should be complaining that my money appropriated to me
my money
is being misused.
My money, it's
Yes,
coming.
appropriated for my
Let me come to
operation.
Mr. Irumba.
It is my money for my operation.
Let me bring in
It's
Mr.
being eaten by
Irumba.
other people.
Yes, Mr. Irumba.
My elder, both in Pan-Africans and by age, I respect him. But on the other hand, I sometimes, like I said earlier, Uganda, because they're not practicing politics, they're practicing politics. So sometimes we even find ourselves defending the undefendable. President Museveni comes to Parliament, asks for 2 budgets. One is for State House, for his home. Another one for President's office.
Yes.
They give him 2 budgets. Then he asks for another budget, classified account. That's another one. Even before actually 1 month into what he has asked for, he comes back for supplementary budget. Somebody has been president for 40 years.
Yes.
Even if you woke him up at 3 a.m. and you ask him, Mr. President, depending what you've been doing for 40 years, what do you think it could be your budget? Rough estimate. He has a figure. But it has now become a routine that they have, because it is too much, they fear to ask at once. So they first come and ask for the legally accepted one, they give.
The 72 trillion.
Yes. 1 month later, even before they finish the other one, because I don't think they have finished it in 1 month. Even before they finish, they come back and ask for supplementary. When they're asking for supplementary, now these MPs say, Mr. President, you know this is wrong. But if we are going to accept to give you, you also put for us. This is the money they are sharing. You get it? So President says, okay, it's okay. First, it's not his.
It's a deal. It feels like it's a deal.
If for me to get money, my elder Ochieno must sign. I come and say, Mr. Ochieno, you signed for me 100 million. He said, I cannot sign to you because it's not allowed. Unless I also put my 100 million. You say, okay, put. He's saying, will he have a problem? No. He will not have a problem. Actually, he would want you every month to come back and ask for more supplementary. Because every month he's assured of 100 million.
Then that means
so
these
now,
are deals now.
Yeah. So now, my elder brother, Captain Awich Pollar, with all due respect.
Major Awich.
Sorry, Major.
Yes.
There are certain things that make us look very, I don't want to use wrong words, he's my elder. But we look funny. We look funny. There are things that we cannot defend. Major Awich Pollar, I don't think, I have known him for a long time. He's a fine guy. I don't think he should defend.
No, but he has also given his reasons. What do you think about
his reasons? Do not count. First of all, the president did not deny that this was not corruption. No, his own argument was, if you, Chivumbi, Mwanga, you are saying this is corruption, 100 million. What about you who is taking LGBTQ money? If you go to court and they say, comrade, you have stolen.
Because of LGBT.
Comrade, you have stolen money. Do you how do you plead? Do you plead guilty or not guilty? You say, I am guilty, but even Ochieno stole. Are you saying that?
Oh, because.
Are you saying that the judge is going to say, okay, please, you are off the hook, you and Ochieno, because now you stole too, I can't imprison both of you. You can go. Is that the argument? So the president has actually said, yes, it is true, but there are also other people doing other things. That's not the leadership that Uganda deserves.
Okay.
So we need to do better. Actually, for me,
yes,
let me tell you, I would, if there was any proposal, maybe by a madman on the street, like I don't want to mention his name, but there's a man who every Monday he files suits every Monday. If they brought a referendum that should we use parliamentary structures to rear pigs, or we leave the parliament there, I would propose we chase the MPs, we use that as a piggery building.
Wow.
We every month we would earn more than 200 million from that piggery project at parliament. Instead, we are losing over 400 billion every week.
That's why I was going to come to that. Mr. Irumba, when you pick a member of parliament, we assume this is the best among those people, right?
Unfortunately, we pick the worst.
Let me just
That
finish.
is the scary
Then,
bit, yes.
How does a house of more than 500 MPs come together to pass such deals? And what does that speak of these people? And Uganda, because these are reflections of who we are.
Because we choose the worst every 5 years. We choose the worst.
Why?
Why? Well, I don't know. But that's the, you see, when you go to he has told you. You can even imagine the arguments. Major Pollar has told you that president has been advising MPs to stop doing things that are not supposed to be theirs. Doing a rubimbi that is not theirs, which ends up putting them into trouble by overspending what they don't earn. So you can imagine it takes a whole president to advise an MP, an educated person, that please, this road you are trying to construct, which is worth 10 billion in your constituency, it is not your job. It is the government's job, because the government has the money. So president is trying to advise them, please don't spend money on things that are not supposed to be your things. No, you do your roles. Let us do as government our role. Now they have failed to listen. So now they are falling into trouble. So the president is rescuing them with 100 million each by telling them, by the way, the other day I told you, you failed to listen. Now you're in trouble. But let me help you. But please don't do it again.
Wow.
That's what Major Pollar is saying.
Isn't that playing with money?
Exactly. That's what Major Pollar is saying. President has been warning them, has been advising them. I think they have failed to listen. They are falling into trouble. Now the president is lifting them up with 100 million. But please warning them, don't do it again.
There's some, Mr. Irumba, as we come to, as you've concluded, there are some phenomena or some school of thoughts that say he is actually paying them for a job well done.
Well done, and the job they're about to do. Yeah, sure. You can see a whole Supreme Court sat and said, this is illegal. MPs are in caucus saying, the judges have said this is illegal. How do we bypass it? And they have now convinced themselves that we can bypass it by amending this. That's what they are doing. You see, somebody has told you, don't do this, it is illegal. Then you go back, because you're a thief, you say, okay, if they stopped me from jumping over the fence, do you think if I dug a hole underground and still I went and reached out to that TV and stole it, would it be now normal? Let me try it. And so they started digging the hole. The other time they stopped them from looping over the roof, the aim was TV. Now they are saying, okay, I think the problems of these judges were us looping over the roof. Now let us dig and pass underground. But the aim is what? Wow. But the judges have told you, don't take that TV, it's not yours.
Thank you.
The cases they are saying, so court martial is going to try. These cases have been tried by the civilian courts.
Okay.
The civilian court can even sentence you to death. Is there any bigger sentence that military court martial can do other than that? Is it there? So what is the problem?
Okay. Brooke Williams says there is no justification for giving MPs 100 million. Then he continues, apparently power belongs to people who control guns. Let me come to you, Honorable Ochieno. What do you think about this 100 million?
Is it Ochieno or Ochieno?
Ochieno. What do you think about the 100 million that the MPs are receiving right now as we're speaking? Most of the MPs are 100 million richer.
It's pathetic. It is gross. It's shameful. And if there is any legislator watching, they should know that any of them who takes the 100 million, they'll be pocketing the blood of the people of this country. And in the future, when we review our history, they will be permanently be associated with Mr. Museveni's mismanagement and misrule of this country and the breaking of this country, and they will be fully responsible for all the eventualities that impact on this country over the next several generations as a result of the manner in which monetary and fiscal policies were thrown back into the bush somewhere in Kapeka, and Musevenomics applied to sort out himself, his family, and those around him, including people who would, quote, legislate on his behalf. I was trying to develop this as a matter of culture much earlier, when I was saying that this is a leadership issue.
Yes, sir.
The way Mr. Museveni has behaved on this, since independence, you cannot relate any head of state, not even the one we like to call the worst in Idi Amin. At no time Amin have done anything, so selfish, so crude, so anti-Ugandan, so arrogant, Mr. Museveni has done, particularly in this. And I'll say why. If you consider everything else that he did, the age limits and all those other things that he's done, the money that he's bought to these guys, and some of these others that he gives to these people who go dressing like nuns to his places, and to those that is given to Pileti, to those that is given to Sudi, to those that is given to this funny woman in a chole over sugar, all of them non-Ugandans, Atiak and Turoko. This one here, Mr. Museveni comes and openly, proudly, and excessively arrogantly says that you Chivumba, Mwanga Chivumba, keep quiet. We for NASA from 1971 to 87, we worked for nothing. Who told Museveni and these foreign NASA guys to work for anybody in Uganda? And if they can show us any evidence of work they did for Ugandans, I don't know. What I know of a section of Fronasa genuinely contributed and participated in the 1979 Liberation War. That is true. But any of the league and the league that was about Fronasa League for a Fronasa agenda rather than a nationalist agenda, I reject that. So Ugandans haven't. Nobody sent Museveni to Luwero. Nobody sent Museveni to Luwero. And since Museveni came from Luwero, there is nothing Museveni can show. The last thing that Mr. Museveni was attempting to justify himself with was this thing to do with security, national security. What happened in Kawempe has just erased that off completely, meaning that Museveni's military operates in a manner far worse than Idi Amin in many cases. And if you tell me about the disappearances, I'll tell you about Kasese. I'll tell you about the case about Luwero, which we've not yet exposed, and I'll tell you about Atiak, and Atiak not sugar, Atiak during the time when Museveni was fighting with the LRAs, and those other things, including Mukura. So the men with these other things. But to suggest that this guy has suffered, that's how we presented it. This guy has suffered, they're not paid. Now we've basically taken this money to give them. It was so patronizing. Generally, it was very shocking. And that, look, so now I'm giving them. And it's your money, I'm giving them, and don't talk. And like Comrade Irumba said that, well, okay, and if you complain, why don't we take this? Those people are complaining, taking LGBT.
When you sit in the mind of Mr. Museveni, coming to that issue.
You're not taking money. I mean, which money? So this money,
when you sit in his mind and he's speaking about foreign funding, what do you think about that?
It's blackmailing Ugandans and ignorance, because he's miseducated Ugandans over a period of time. And part of the indoctrination thing I was trying to talk much earlier about this politics of hate. Museveni has created Uganda and used lies and scaremongering. So Ugandans just cocoon like this, that that NR is the best thing that has ever happened in this country, and NR is the best thing that can ever happen.
I think for him he's saying, why are you not also commenting on them?
Because I'm giving the proper answer. It is cheek. Uganda's health budget at some stage was nearly 90% foreign funded. Uganda's budget is 52% funded. Basically, the jets that Museveni's fly are basically predominantly most foreign funded. Who? The LGBT thing, even if it's true, that is maybe a few million Uganda shillings. What about the billions?
$1 million.
And so what about this other Museveni's friends? What about Museveni's usual investors who have to pass via State House before they land anywhere here in country? So no, that's what I'm saying. It's cheek coming from him. Whoever advised him to do that letter was actually terrible advice. And finally, of course, you look at the letter. He goes and as by the way, he writes because somebody reminds me that today is the 11th of April. Which is the anniversary of the official national liberation of this country since our independence, military liberation in April 1976. Oh, by the way, today also is the day when Ugandans, congratulations, you did this. That's by the way. This guy is very arrogant, and with the manner in which he's in Uganda, he feels that he controls and owns the republic, and our national money is in his pocket.
He has said that money has been already allocated for classified expenditure.
Comrade Awich, the fact that legislators appropriate money, and the fact that it goes through a formal process does not make it right, nor does it possibly even make it justifiable. Nor does it even make it their money. And number two, the responsibility of government, this is what they do actually with budgeting, that even if they had to put some classified money, when are we going to say that certain amount of money was classified for the previous budget and was not used by State House and was assigned to the Treasury? I mean, to in I think 1983, Yona Kanyomozi was on a trip to Cuba, had a delegation to Cuba, and he returned by a weekend, and for some reason he was not able, over 2 day period, to go and report to Milton Bote. And what is someone did first thing very early, I think 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, to come to come to report. And the issue is not about the reporting, about the trip. But the first thing what I asked him was for accountability in terms of money is returned. What is always returned, this money is as a matter of formality. That's why I'm trying to tell you about culture and leadership. And I said, these guys, you guys.
Okay.
It's really not about politicking of UPC versus the other NRS. It's basically culture that we need to leave. These guys have been around for the last 40 years and they've done terrible things. But at this time, we should not really continue some of this. Because the truth is, I'm genuinely surprised that Museveni could actually list 100 million Uganda shillings to legislators. And my final conclusion on this, that any legislator who's taken this money, the youth and people watching Uganda must campaign and make sure that these guys not return to the National Assembly. But whereas the MP should not be returned, my view is that Mr. Museveni, the manner in which, if you read that letter, Mr. Museveni should not be
But
returning.
lastly, is this MPs not returning? Is that the solution? Because over the different parliaments from the 7th, you have seen people being bought. So it's not really a parliament problem. Maybe it's us.
No.
It's who we are.
No, the most responsible person is Mr. Museveni.
Okay.
Number 2, the parliamentarians. But number 3, and that's what I'm invoking, the citizens of this country must rise up and say no.
Let me come to Honorable Ochieno.
And this is happening. This is happening against a background in which I have had to spend nearly 150,000 shillings for basic drugs. The other day I went and I was bearing a 6-year-old child in Nagongira who died from cerebral malaria. I can go on and on and on and on and on.
Let me bring in Honorable
necessarily that rich country, and we have to confirm finally we are amongst the most highly paid legislators. It is completely unacceptable.
Before you're going to react to to their submissions, mine is one Nicholas Opia, lawyer, said that politicians, MPs are paid more than a neuroscientist in this particular country. Let me even bring it down. 100 million is given to each parish. So this parish we are in, locally 100 million for all of us that actually we are going to pay back after using.
Yes.
The same 100 million is being given to a legislator. Do you think there are more priorities in the country where this money could have been allocated?
There are many, many priorities, but you have to choose among priorities. There are many, many priorities. Remember, even a big economy like America or Japan
very few countries, except the countries I know like Liechtenstein, which have surplus budget. But at any one point, you will always not find enough money. And that's why countries like America also don't have enough. Therefore, to ask whether there are no other priorities, there are many priorities, but you have to choose. And that
RM is a priority.
In the opinion of Museveni, in his opinion, in choosing many priorities that are demanding, he chose to say it is better to have a peaceful, and those are his diction, his choice of words, a peaceful National Assembly. So, to answer your question, there are many priorities, but you have to choose.
They can only be peaceful.
Yes.
Breathing them.
Now, I want to comment about the issue of classified. Classified money does not mean nobody knows. Under the rules of procedure of Parliament, a select members take oath and do look at what you want to do with this classified money, even if it is Minister of Defense. So, classified therefore given to Museveni is not to say Ugandans don't know. Ugandans know. There's a select committee from either budget committee who look into it, and they disagree or not agree. So I want our viewers to know, classified to what degree? Does it mean Ugandans don't know? Ugandans know. Now this is why it brings me to the question, if this money is appropriated to the president for classified, it kind of means that the usage is known to him and to the members of parliament. Now, people who are saying he shouldn't have given, do they have any other alternative they think the president should have sent this classified money to? Do they?
Must it be spent?
Yes, it's appropriated. You see, our budget is demand-driven. The president had indicated how he was using, and that's how it was provided. And therefore, unless somebody has evidence to say, this money, if you didn't give MPs, you should have done with it this.
Yes, hospitals.
No, but the hospital money is different. The appropriated money for hospital, they appropriated this one for classified.
MPs pay is also different.
Yes, but classified. So if he had not used it, so he should use it for what? The other thing I want to say is about the law about raising a matter on a character. Irumba says that if Museveni says that you're also corrupt, that is wrong, that if you go to court. I like to say a court, Comrade Irumba, a court is my domain. I'm an advocate of the courts of law. In courts of law, if you went and said, if you raise a matter of a character, of my character, I'm a thief or I'm a wizard, the law allows me to raise yours. The law, yeah, because this is a matter of law. It's not my wish. You can check. You have cousins who are lawyers. You have uncles who are lawyers. Go and ask them that should you go to court and raise a matter of my character, you have opened a door to a matter of your character.
In defense.
You raise it. If you say I'm a wizard, I can actually pray to court for an adjournment. Then I will come back on issues about your character. This is a law. Consult your uncle or your cousin. Therefore, it is not far-fetched to say you raise a character of somebody and somebody raises the opposite. You ask him, he's the one who brought it.
So
ask it wrong.
But
first, let me finish.
Just a minute, just a minute.
But you guys, when you guys were presenting, I was quiet.
No, I was just going
you
through.
take note. So I just wanted to tell you that it is what? It is appropriate in law if you raise a matter about a character, somebody has a right of defense.
So if I say
now
you stole,
again,
you say
Comrade Karanga,
the matter is finished.
Karanga, I want to say that the issue of money raises emotions. So we should discuss it knowing at the background that it raises emotions. How does it raise emotion? Because some of us, you know, it personal touches everybody, say, why not me? But he presents it like it is not him, it is them. So we should know that when each of us is debating this money, it is accompanied by emotions. And therefore we should be judged as such.
Okay,
We should be judged as such.
Explain to my mortal mind how logical it is to give a parish 100 million that is refundable and giving a member of parliament
100 million, non-refundable.
I'm going to explain.
Please do.
I've noted. Now, about court martial that he raises, there's a clear principle in law that nobody can, I mean, we should, a parliament cannot legislate. Parliament cannot legislate to defeat a court ruling. That one I should assure viewers, that parliament cannot legislate to defeat or circumvent a court ruling. So the fears that parliament will legislate to circumvent a ruling is a fear.
No, at least that is a projection.
Yes,
I'm not sure about
it's a fear, so we should wait and see.
Awich, please answer my question.
I'm answering.
No, the logic behind.
Okay, maybe I answer your question, then you give me time to explain what I want.
Because you're
Let
explaining
me
something
answer
and
about
because
the
of
parish.
time,
Let me
yes,
answer about the
please
parish.
answer
But
that
please
question.
allow me to also explain what I want to. If you want, because I've noted it here, but if your question about parish is the logic between giving 100 million in a parish and giving a member of parliament. A member of parliament represents a constituency. You can know how many parishes are in the constituency. There are several parishes in the constituency it represents. A member of parliament sits in the National Assembly.
But he's
Your
paid
question
for that
amounts
service.
to, your question amounts
He's paid.
to the cost of peace and the cost of democracy. Should the political body collapse in this country, all this you are talking about parishes and what will collapse. So the cost of peace,
please let him speak.
the cost of peace to maintain a peaceful situation, which I agree in the wisdom of the fountain of honor, is much more expensive than the parish
biggest
you're talking
budget
about.
in our budget is the
much more.
security budget. What does that security budget do?
May you give me a minute?
Please
I just read something with my elder. My elder, all the responsibilities you have apportioned to members of parliament are correct. This is the reason why of all the institutions of government in Uganda, it is only parliament that appropriates its own budget, its own salary. Even the president's salary is determined by parliament. So those wise people sat down and saw the hard tasks of members of parliament. They gave them enough money. They even went ahead and gave them fuel based on the kilometers of their representatives.
Yes.
Constituency where they are coming from. A member of parliament in Kampala gets different fuel from a member of parliament from Arua. They already know. They get salaries, they get money. So do not come here and say, the responsibilities are so huge. So I understand the president giving them 100 million. We already gave them enough money.
My question I was asking is, doesn't the security budget foot the security of this country?
Now, maybe I will learn to intervene in people's submissions. My cadre discipline of NRM is letting me down.
Sorry.
My cadre discipline is letting me down because it derails me.
Sorry.
I always pick a pen and a paper and I note what I will say.
I apologize, my elder.
And unfortunately, even when I become disciplined and not down, you don't want me to respond. Maybe you prefer my interference. Because noting down is to save interference. But now when I've noted and I'm supposed to respond, you don't want. Now, I am still wanting to, I want to say, if I can answer this question of why the juxtapose of 100 million per parish vis-a-vis the million per parish, 100 million per parish is not cut because MPs have got. They are running concurrently. The ideology, the principle is still there. So the way you put it is as if MPs get 100, then the parish don't.
No, for me, I'm paying back. The MP is not paying back.
That is a different arrangement. So, the point here is to keep together the body politics, which if it breaks in the Paris thing you are talking about breaks, is what is in the wisdom of the appointing authority wants to preserve it.
Okay.
And he has done it.
Thank
now, I want to comment about two things. One, the legislator, I think I've commented about the fear of legislating to defeat court martial, that court has decided this,
Yes.
and yet no. the principle of law is that Parliament cannot make legislation to defeat a court ruling. You cannot circumvent it. Maybe I could hint on you what one of the things that I'm sure will come in this court martial amendment. Amama Mbabazi had put that when you're convicted by court martial, you can appeal to the civil court. He put it in a regulation. Court said no. That is a creature of Parliament, not a regulation by a minister. So that is part of the amendment they want to introduce.
Okay,
that,
we're not talking about the amendment, really.
No, I want to say this because Irumba is saying MPs are given money to pass laws for court martial. And I'm trying to say, first of all, it is not, the fear is a fear because the principle of law says you don't pass a legislation to defeat a court ruling.
Thank you.
So,
but that's what they're
no, as you conclude, Major
That's what
Awich,
it is your fear.
Yes, as Major Awich, you conclude, please, on that issue. Oh, you're done. Honorable Joseph Ochieno, where do we go as a country? Really, if these are the quality of MPs that we have in the August House, and this is not the first time this is happening, it's now starting to become a habit. What do we do as a country?
It is scary, and as I say, sometimes I come onto these programs completely committed to sovereignty and civility as much as possible. But sometimes I genuinely get annoyed. And sometimes I get genuinely worried. Comrade Awich is a very senior person. He sits a very senior person. He sits at the central executive, the highest organ of the ruling establishment. So he sits in there with Museveni.
Yes.
Mr. Museveni does this, and you get the arguments, including from Awich, who's a lawyer, and then we bring in the idea that we are buying peace after 40 years by bribing members of parliament with 100 million shillings, people already the highest paid. I need to repeat this point. I don't know how 100 million shillings to a member of parliament who has been advised by their master Museveni several times, please spend well. Sleep in posh hotels, play around with crooked girls, and some of the girls go ahead and play with crooked things, and then they go ahead and take their families to very different kind of places, and then they fail to implement programs for public service in this country. Then they go broke, and because it's gone broke, instead of the bailiffs going for them, and even if the bailiffs went for them, that would be a matter of national security. It just does not make sense to me. And I say that because, again, I returned from the East. The only person I know who attempted to make an application for parish mode, for this parish nonsense thing, I know a young entrepreneur who asked for 1 million Uganda shillings, and they were told the money was finished. That's within the last 10 days somewhere. I'm not going to the only person I know where this conversation has taken place. And so here, the member of parliament for the area who's almost certainly entering that place is getting 100 million shillings for nothing. It just does not make sense. Number two, members of parliament are not special creatures. In fact, I know many of them who are fantastic guys. But some of them are also people who will thank their gods 100 times that they ever appeared in the National Assembly. Because they're really not the most special people. In any case, if I look, for instance, in my constituency, in the event that my area MP today chose not to become a member of parliament, I see the list within NRA, tens of people. I see the list within other democratic opposition, tens of people. In UPC would give them 3 fantastic people who would replace them. So these are not special creatures that when one gets broke and then they get taken to Luzira for failing to pay money, it would be a national security. And as I say, even in the absence of parliament, in any case, Museveni ruled this country for 20 years without parliament. So I'm not saying he should ban it, and in any case, he himself has said parliament is useless. So the idea of the security thing and the manner in which they did in the line does not follow. They could have persuaded Ugandans better. It was just a sense of arrogance. And I would say this, that whatever happens, Ugandans need to mobilize and organize and say no, demand for these monies to be returned. demand for review of these processes and make sure that come the next election, Mr. Museveni doesn't return, or many of these people, if not all these people who stole our money, don't return. And then we review policy in this country and we begin to make sure that a new dispensation, which will take this country in a new direction, and make sure that our national resources are mobilized and organized for our young, fantastic citizens like yourselves, including fantastic people in your control room.
Thank you.
Take the lead.
Thank
because
you
I
so
said
much.
it's impunity, and I think it's an impunity which is sort of out of control, impunity with arrogance.
Mr. Irumba, as you give us your concluding remarks, where do we go as a country?
I think, honestly speaking, if after 40 years in power, you're still not so sure how big should your budget be, every month you ask for supplementary budget. And when we give you that money, my elder brother, Comrade Awich Pollar, is saying the Fountain of Honor sensed that these people, with the debts that they have, if I don't give them a hand, it might become a security threat. And so he gives them money. We elect these people every 5 years. We think we choose the best. A person who has gone to school, that's why they even put minimum qualifications, because they anticipate that you know how to control your finances, you know how to plan for your family.
Life skills, basic life skills.
Now, Comrade Awich Pollar is telling us that actually the president is the father of all those 509 MPs. They don't know how to spend their money. What they earn and what they spend sometimes are completely different things. They don't understand. They don't know. So the president has to come and rescue them. If that is the leadership that is going to represent me and my children's children, I would wish. You see, some people have been saying that how about if we again call colonialists and empowered them to manage Uganda on our behalf? Because there is no colonialist who would pay himself a lot of billions of money. No, I'm just saying, I'm not saying, this is not me. This is not me. But you see, comrade, when you're at crossroads, when you're at the junction, and it is possible to take any direction, Uganda could be there.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Irumba. Lastly, Major Pollar Awich, your parting shots, but this time speakers, Pollar Awich, someone who loves his country.
From the bottom
not
of his
the
heart.
director of NRM External Affairs.
You speak like my elder brother.
How do we
whom I know
make Uganda better, especially in such things, such challenges we have seen in the different parliaments, not just this one alone, sir?
Well, Karanga, it is not pleasing to think that you insinuate that I have not been speaking as Pollar.
No, you said you were in power, so you were speaking as an NRM person who was in power. That's why I'm saying, let me speak to the person of Major Awich.
It's a thin line. First of all, I came here with a mindset of a debate on whether or not Parliament will continue to exercise its autonomy. And kind of in the discussion, by your questioning, you didn't direct our mind to that. But I like to say in my conclusion, therefore, that Parliament will continue to exercise its autonomy, regardless of the fact that you didn't direct the discussion to that effect. That, but also as Parliament continue to exercise its autonomy, I had hinted in the sports that the law says football should be independent, but how independent? So even when you say Parliament is autonomous, how autonomous? Because in theory, there is supposed to be 3 arms of government, the executive, Parliament, and judiciary. But you see that there's a point of intersection. The salaries, the funding, and everything goes there. So Parliament is supposed to exercise oversight. It will continue. It will point out the oversight and the wrong. Parliament is supposed to pass laws. It will pass laws regardless of who, and that law will be binding on everybody. So I just like to assure the viewers that despite the 100 million, Parliament will continue to pass law without fear or favor. It will continue to make its oversight.
Okay.
And therefore, finally, is that I use the word peace, not security.
we seem to have been using it here interchangeably.
And they are.
Because even Museveni used the word peace. You know, if you follow it on a security perspective, then you're saying the army is there. No, it is not. Museveni said this was for peace.
Thank you.
And therefore, please, viewers, the autonomy of parliament will continue to be exercised.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. I am a challenge to be a realist. So for me, I look at things as they are. And my job is to inform and educate Ugandans. So I will not base on some of the sentiments, but I will really look at the evidence. The evidence over time has shown us that Uganda's parliament has actually been taking money. And that alone can qualify, in my opinion, to undermine its autonomy. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. We shall meet again tomorrow morning at exactly 8 a.m. I'll be here having a conversation with Uganda on the Mighty Drive show. Remember to follow us and watch all our different shows: The Voltage Show, Face the Nation, The Hotline, The Mighty Drive, The Snap Talk Show, and all the shows that happen throughout the week. From the entire team, God bless you. We shall see you again same time tomorrow, same station. Good evening, Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.